Hannah Whitmore had always believed that silence was safer than speaking up, especially in a house where every word could turn into a weapon. That night in Beverly Hills, the December air cut sharper than any argument, and the lights from the terrace spilled across the marble like frozen water. She stood there barefoot, 7 months pregnant, holding her trembling daughter, Aria, against her chest, when Grayson Wolfe stepped out with the calmness of a man who thought he owned the world. "Put her down," he said, not loud, not angry, just cold. Hannah's heart beat so hard she felt it against her ribs. "Grayson, please, Aria can't be out here. Her asthma. That's exactly why she shouldn't witness your behavior," he cut in. "You're teaching her weakness." Weakness. He loved that word. He used it like a scalpel. The wind blasted across the yard, carrying the smell of chlorine from the infinity pool. The security cameras blinked red in the corners, the same cameras Grayson installed to keep the family safe. Hannah knew better now. Nothing in that house was for her safety. Sloane Pierce appeared behind him, a silk robe draped over her shoulders, her voice honeyed as she leaned close. "She just needs to cool off, Grayson. She's overwhelmed. Pregnancy makes women dramatic." Hannah felt Aria's breath tightening. She knelt, placing a hand on her daughter's back. "I can't stay out here," she whispered. "Please." But Grayson waved them toward the garden hose coiled near the steps. "Turn it on. Rinse the attitude out." "I won't." Her voice cracked. "Then we'll do it my way." He grabbed the hose, twisted the nozzle, and icy water blasted across Hannah's clothes, hitting her stomach, soaking her hair, stealing her breath. Aria screamed, coughing violently. Hannah shielded her with her body, slipping on the wet stone. Sloane watched with a faint smile, arms folded, enjoying every second. "Grayson, stop," Hannah choked. "She can't breathe." "You brought this on yourself," he replied. Aria wheezed harder, collapsing against her mother. Panic surged through Hannah's chest as she tried to lift her daughter, her muscles shaking from the cold. The world blurred, her legs buckled. Somewhere above them, a mechanical click echoed one of the smart home cameras adjusting focus, recording not just the images but every cruel word. Hannah didn't see it. She only felt the cold swallowing her as she slipped onto the stone. But someone else saw. Someone who would not stay silent this time. And at that moment, the first thread of Grayson Wolfe's downfall quietly snapped in the dark, unseen by everyone except the camera that captured everything. And what that camera recorded would destroy him far more violently than anything Hannah could imagine. Those unseen moments would soon become the spark that turned Hannah's quiet suffering into a storm no one could stop for good. Hannah Whitmore hadn't always lived inside fear. There was a time when she thought love could shelter her, when Grayson Wolfe wasn't a millionaire CEO, wasn't a man who barked orders and measured affection like currency. Back then, they were two ordinary people who met at a coffee shop near UCLA. She was studying photography, working nights at a diner. He was a quiet tech engineer with tired eyes and big dreams. He noticed her sketching landscapes on the back of a receipt. She noticed he never looked at his phone when he talked to her. It felt simple, safe. A beginning that promised stability. That promise didn't last long. When his company skyrocketed after a breakthrough AI product, everything changed. Money poured in, attention followed, and so did the silent shift in his personality. He became sharper, hungrier, more irritable when things weren't under his control. Hannah told herself the pressure of success was temporary, that he would come back to her, but he didn't. He climbed higher into a world she didn't belong to, and slowly, she realized she had become something like an accessory, quiet, decorative, expected to stay flawless. The warning signs were small at first. He criticized her clothes, saying she should carry herself like a CEO's wife. He asked her to quit her photography job because it was unprofessional for someone in his position. She did it to keep peace. She thought marriage required sacrifice. She didn't understand yet that he only asked sacrifices of her, never of himself. Then came the pressure to sign the prenuptial agreement long after they were already married. He said it was to protect the company. She didn't want to sign, but he convinced her that refusing meant she didn't trust him, and Hannah couldn't stand the idea of losing him. So she signed away rights she never imagined she'd need. He told her she was being paranoid for even hesitating. The biggest crack appeared when she became pregnant with their first child, Aria. Hannah expected him to soften. Instead, he hardened. He criticized her weight, her cravings, her exhaustion. When Arya was born with asthma, Grayson complained that Hannah had passed on weak genes. She cried in the hospital bathroom while nurses comforted her. Still, she hoped. Still, she tried. The loneliness grew stronger once Sloane Pierce entered the picture. At first, Sloane pretended to adore Hannah, calling her sweet and gentle, but her compliments felt like knives wrapped in silk. Grayson became distant again, long nights at the office, hushed calls, unexplained trips. Hannah wasn't naive. She felt the shift. Every smile he gave Sloane was a smile he'd stopped giving her. Arya saw the fights. She would curl into Hannah's lap and whisper, "Mommy, it's okay," even when it wasn't. Then came the second pregnancy, unplanned and difficult. Doctors warned Hannah to avoid stress, but life with Grayson was nothing but stress. She hid her anxiety, hid her bruised spirit, hid the truth from her daughter. Hannah believed endurance was the only way to protect her children. That belief shattered the night Grayson forced her into the cold. As she lay on the icy tiles, memories of the life she once imagined flickered like dying candles. She could hear Arya's faint wheezing. She could hear Sloane's soft laughter. She could hear Grayson walking away. But somewhere far from the terrace, a man named Elias Ward, someone connected to her past without her knowing, was about to learn what Grayson had done. And his discovery would become the first answer to a prayer Hannah never dared to speak. Sloane Pierce did not enter Hannah's life like a storm. Storms announce themselves. Storms make noise. Sloane was quieter, smoother, slipping into spaces where she didn't belong until she rearranged everything inside them. Hannah remembered the first time she saw her, a charity luncheon in Beverly Hills, Grayson's hand resting lightly on the back of Sloane's chair, almost too natural for people who claimed to have just met. Sloane wore a white silk dress that caught the sunlight like polished bone, and every gesture she made looked rehearsed, perfected, intentional. "Your wife is lovely," Sloane had told Grayson, not even looking at Hannah. "So gentle, gentle." That word again. Hannah used to think it was a compliment. She eventually learned it meant easy to manipulate. Sloane became a constant presence at Grayson's company. She wasn't officially hired yet, but somehow she attended every board meeting, every fundraiser, every event where powerful men admired her sharp confidence. She had connections, influence, an understanding of how to turn whispers into weapons. Within weeks, Grayson started quoting her ideas, praising her strategies, trusting her judgment more than anyone else's, including his wife's. Hannah tried to be understanding. Pregnancy already made her feel out of place among the polished circles. Grayson now moved in. She wore comfortable dresses because her body ached. She carried snacks in her purse for Arya. She didn't glide through rooms the way Sloane seemed to, leaving perfume and admiration behind her. Still, Hannah never imagined Sloane would go after her marriage so openly. It began subtly. Sloane suggested Hannah should take more time for herself, meaning stay home and remain unseen. She hinted that Hannah's presence at corporate gatherings made investors uncomfortable, though she said it with a sympathetic smile. She encouraged Grayson to hire stylists for himself, trainers, speech coaches. "You're becoming a brand," she whispered to him at dinner parties, just loud enough for Hannah to hear. The worst part wasn't the flirtation. It was the alliance forming between them. Grayson growing sharper, more dismissive, more impatient, with anything that reminded him of the simple life he came from. He started comparing Hannah to Sloane, not directly, but in ways that carved deeper wounds than insults ever could. He'd mention how focused Sloane was, how elegant she looked, how well she handled pressure. It was as if Sloane represented the version of success he wanted, and Hannah represented the version he wanted to erase. One afternoon, Hannah overheard a conversation outside Grayson's office door. Sloane's voice floated out, light and poisonous. "You deserve someone who elevates you, Grayson. Someone who fits the world you built." "And you think she doesn't?" Grayson asked. A pause. A soft laugh. "You know she doesn't." Hannah froze in the hallway, holding Arya's hand, feeling her daughter's small fingers curl around hers. She wanted to walk away, but her feet rooted to the floor as she listened to the life she had fought for, unraveling piece by piece. After that day, Sloane stopped pretending. She criticized Hannah's parenting, her clothes, her decisions. She suggested Arya's asthma was due to maternal anxiety. She offered to accompany Grayson on business trips, saying Hannah needed rest. Every time Sloane spoke, she wrapped her words in concern, but the truth behind them was sharp enough to draw blood. Grayson didn't just accept her presence, he depended on it. And the more he believed Sloane, the less he believed Hannah. The night of the cold water incident didn't happen suddenly. It was the result of weeks of Sloane whispering poison disguised as advice, pushing Grayson further into darkness. But what Sloane didn't know, what would soon turn the entire story against her, was that her own fingerprints were all over the recordings that would destroy them both. The Wolf residence in Beverly Hills sat on a hill overlooking the city like a silent king. From the outside, it looked like the kind of home people dreamed of: white marble steps, floor-to-ceiling windows, a terrace lit with golden sconces, and a view that stretched from the skyline to the ocean. Visitors always gasped. They thought Hannah was lucky. They thought she was living a fairy tale. They didn't understand that even the prettiest cages have chandeliers. Inside, everything gleamed. The living room held a glass coffee table with a Mont Blanc pen Grayson used during video conferences. His MacBook Pro always sat open on the sleek stone island where he paced during calls. The garage housed a Mercedes S-Class and a Tesla Model X, polished until they shone like trophies. Every object reflected wealth, control, and the precise image Grayson curated. For Hannah, the house had begun to feel like a museum filled with delicate objects she wasn't allowed to touch. She remembered when they first moved in. She ran her fingers along the marble counters and whispered, "It's beautiful." Grayson kissed her forehead and said, "This is the life we deserve." She believed him then. She thought the home would bring comfort, joy, stability. But as Grayson's obsession with status grew, the house changed. Not physically, emotionally. Rooms became quiet battlegrounds. Conversations became strategies. Dinners felt like negotiations. Hannah walked carefully, always afraid of disturbing the image he worked so hard to maintain. Sloane Pierce's presence made the house colder. Whenever she visited, she moved through the halls like she owned them, heels tapping against the marble, leaving Hannah feeling like a guest in her own life. Sloane would compliment the decor, but her tone carried a hint of mockery, as if she were assessing what she planned to take over. Arya sensed it too. The little girl often clung to Hannah's leg, whispering, "Mommy, can we go home?" But they were already home. At least, that's what the world believed. One evening, after a particularly tense argument, Hannah wandered into the nursery. She sank onto the rocking chair, running her fingers along the crib they had chosen together. She traced the edges and tried to remember the moments of hope she felt during her pregnancy, the tiny kicks, the heartbeat on the monitor. She wanted her second baby to feel safe, wanted Arya to grow up with warmth, not fear. But the house, with its expensive silence, didn't hold warmth anymore. Grayson spent more nights locked in his office, the blue glow of his screens reflecting off the walls. Hannah once overheard him rehearsing a speech for investors. "Wolf Tech isn't just leading the future, we're defining it," he said. His voice was confident, powerful. It was the version of him the world admired. She wished that version existed at home. Sometimes, Hannah would look out from the balcony at the city lights. They sparkled like scattered hope. She would imagine walking away, taking Arya's small hand, starting fresh somewhere quiet. But fear anchored her. The house, the money, the power. Grayson controlled everything, including the legal papers she once signed without understanding the consequences. Still, the house had one flaw Grayson didn't consider. Every hallway, every terrace, every room was equipped with silent, watchful smart home cameras. They had been installed for security, but Grayson used them to monitor Hannah. He could check her movements from his phone, check how long she spent in each room. He even commented once, "You wandered the south wing for 15 minutes. Why?" She never answered. But those same cameras, cold, unblinking, loyal to no one, had captured each cruel word he spoke, each moment of Sloane's manipulation, each act of humiliation. And one day soon, those recordings would turn the house he worshipped into the evidence that destroyed his entire kingdom. The tension inside the Wolf residence had been building for weeks, quietly, steadily, like pressure beneath a fault line waiting for the perfect moment to rupture. Hannah felt it in the way Grayson slammed doors harder than necessary, in the way he criticized her cooking, in the way he watched her with calculating eyes, as if waiting for her to make the smallest mistake so he could justify his anger. And Sloane Pierce, always lingering like a shadow, added fuel without ever lifting a finger. It began earlier that evening, long before the cold water cruelty on the terrace. Hannah had spent the afternoon preparing dinner for the three of them, trying to keep the peace. She cooked carefully, double-checking every detail. The doctor had advised her to avoid stress during her high-risk pregnancy, but stress lived inside the walls of that house. She plated the salmon, wiped the counters, and set the table with the quiet hope that tonight might pass without conflict. Grayson entered the dining room with the self-importance of a man who believed the world revolved around him. He didn't greet her. He didn't look at her. He adjusted his cufflinks, silver ones, Sloane gifted him, and sat down like a king waiting to be served. "This is overcooked," he said after the first bite. "It's not," Hannah answered softly. "I followed the recipe exactly." "Wrong move." Grayson set his fork down too hard, the metal clinking against the plate like a warning. "Are you arguing with me now?" Her pulse quickened. "No, I'm just saying. You're always just saying, always making excuses." His voice grew louder. "I work all day while you sit at home and still can't manage a simple meal? Sit at home." As if carrying a child while caring for another didn't count. As if her exhaustion didn't matter. As if being suffocated in silence wasn't work. Before she could respond, Sloane glided into the room wearing a fitted black dress, acting as though she belonged there. She placed a hand on Grayson's shoulder, her tone dripping with false concern. "Grayson, don't get upset," she murmured. "She's overwhelmed. Hormones, you know. It's normal." Hannah froze. Sloane didn't live there, but lately she acted like she did. Grayson relaxed under her touch, something he hadn't done with Hannah in months. "Maybe you're right," he replied. "She's been dramatic all day." Hannah's throat tightened. "I'm right here," she whispered. Sloane gave her a sympathetic smile that wasn't sympathetic at all. "Of course you are, honey." The humiliation stung deeper than any argument. Hannah felt Arya tug at her dress, the little girl sensing danger the way children often do. Hannah knelt to comfort her, only for Grayson to snap. "Can you not coddle her for once? That's why she cries over everything." Arya flinched. Hannah stood slowly, holding her daughter close. "Don't speak to her like that." Grayson laughed a cold, condescending sound. "You think you get to tell me how to run my house?" "This isn't running a house," Hannah replied, surprising even herself. "This is cruelty." Silence fell. Sloane's eyebrows lifted slightly, as if amused. Grayson's expression shifted from annoyance to something darker, something dangerous. "Maybe you need to go outside and calm down," he said. "Get some air, clear your head. It's freezing. Then maybe you'll learn something." Sloane folded her arms, eyes glinting. "She's challenging you, Grayson. She's been doing it all night." And that was the moment everything shifted, the instant when irritation transformed into rage, when control turned into punishment, when a bad night crossed into something unforgivable. Because from that moment forward, Grayson Wolfe wasn't arguing with his wife anymore. He was preparing to break her. And what he did next would push Hannah into the cold and push his own fate toward a fall no one could stop. The cold hit Hannah before the water did. The December wind sliced through her sweater as Grayson marched her across the terrace, his grip locked around her wrist like a metal shackle. She tried to keep her balance, tried to shield Arya with her free arm, but her daughter's tiny body trembled against her chest. The sky above Beverly Hills glowed a deep cobalt blue, the kind that looked peaceful from afar yet up close. Everything felt sharp and merciless. "Grayson, please," Hannah begged. "She's not well. We can go inside. We can talk." "There's nothing to talk about," he snapped. "You need discipline." Discipline. As if she were a child. As if she hadn't spent years trying to hold their family together. As if the world he built had the right to crush her. Sloane stood at the doorway, arms crossed, her silhouette lit by the warm interior glow. She didn't step outside. She didn't have to. Her presence alone was a command. "She can stop any time," Sloane called out, her tone calm and venomous. "All she has to do is apologize." "For what?" Hannah asked, voice shaking. "For disrespect," Sloane replied, tilting her head. "For making your life harder. For embarrassing you." Hannah's lips parted, stunned. Even now, 7 months pregnant, holding a sick child, standing in freezing air, she was the villain in their eyes. Arya coughed a deep, rattling sound that scraped down her throat. The kind of cough that made Hannah's heart seize with fear. She bent down, rubbing small circles on her daughter's back, but the cough only worsened. "Stop coddling her," Grayson ordered. "You're making it worse." "She can't breathe," Hannah cried. "Look at her." But Grayson's eyes were fixed on the garden hose lying coiled by the steps. He reached for it with slow, deliberate movements, unscrewing the nozzle as if preparing a tool rather than a weapon. The hose sputtered, then spat out a jet of icy water as he twisted the handle fully open. "Stand up," he said coldly. Hannah didn't move. Grayson pressed the trigger. The blast struck her square in the chest, knocking the breath from her lungs. The water felt like shards of ice slicing through her clothes, soaking her hair, weighing her down. She staggered backward, slipping on the slick tiles, clutching Arya tighter as both of them shivered violently. "Grayson, stop!" she gasped. He didn't. He stepped closer, expression blank, jaw set, as if punishing her was an obligation he needed to fulfill. Water pounded against her legs, her stomach, her unborn baby. Arya screamed, her voice breaking into wheezes. "She's having an attack," Hannah sobbed. "Please, please, please stop." But Sloane's voice floated from the doorway. "Grayson, she's manipulating you. You can't give in every time she acts hysterical." Hannah's legs buckled. She sank to her knees, shielding Arya with her body, but the water kept coming. Her vision blurred, her fingers went numb. A cold deeper than the weather crept into her bones, cold made of fear, betrayal, and the realization that the man she once loved no longer existed. A small ceramic planter toppled near the fence, startling Grayson. He turned, scanning the shadows. Something had moved just out of sight, but he didn't investigate. He didn't care who saw. He only cared about control. Finally, the hose fell silent. Grayson exhaled sharply, as if satisfied. "Get up," he said. "We're done here." Hannah couldn't. Arya lay limp in her arms, struggling for breath. Panic surged as Hannah tried to stand, every muscle shaking from the cold. She swayed, nearly falling again. She didn't see the camera above them pivot silently. She didn't see the small red light blink, but one person did. Hidden by the fence, a worker who had seen too much held his phone tightly, watching the live feed streaming from the smart home system he'd secretly accessed. His hands shook not from cold, but from the certainty that this footage would change everything. Because what he captured wasn't just abuse, it was evidence. And that evidence would become the weapon Hannah never knew she had. Hannah didn't remember how she got back inside the house. Her mind was a fog, her body trembling so badly she could barely keep her grip on Arya. The warmth of the hallway felt unreal after the freezing night air. It didn't soothe her. It only made her aware of how violently she was shaking. Water dripped from her hair, her sweater, her eyelashes. Each drop hit the tile like a clock counting down to something terrible. Arya wheezed in her arms, small chest rising and falling in frantic, uneven bursts. Panic clawed at Hannah's throat. She rushed toward the bathroom, the only place where she felt even a sliver of safety. She turned on the shower to generate steam, hoping it would help Arya breathe. She held her daughter close, rocking her, whispering to her even as her own breath kept catching from shock. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. Just breathe. Breathe for me." But Arya's eyes fluttered, her breath shallow and strained. Hannah's heart cracked. She needed to call an ambulance. She needed help, real help, not the kind Grayson pretended to offer when it served him. She scrambled for her phone, but the moment she unlocked it, a cold realization washed through her. Grayson had disabled outgoing calls earlier that week, claiming he was correcting a billing issue. She didn't believe him then. Now she knew the truth. He didn't want her reaching anyone. Her stomach twisted, her breath hitching. The baby inside her shifted uneasily. A sharp pain shot up her side. Stress like this wasn't safe, not for her, not for the child she carried. But she had no choice except to hold on, to survive, to help Arya survive. A knock echoed against the bathroom door. Grayson's voice seeped through, smooth and emotionless. "Are you finished being dramatic?" Hannah froze. Tears blurred her vision, but she couldn't let him hear them. She pressed her hand over her mouth, lowering her voice to a whisper. "Please, she needs a doctor." "No," he replied simply. "She needs structure." You fill her head with fear, and she reacts to it. "That's not how asthma works," Hannah said, desperation sharpening her tone. But Grayson didn't want truth. He wanted obedience. "If you won't calm down," he warned, "I'll take her from you until you can." The threat sliced through her. He would do it. He absolutely would. He'd take Arya and twist the story, blame Hannah, paint her unstable. He'd done smaller versions of it before, gaslighting her, rewriting conversations, insisting things didn't happen the way she remembered. She couldn't let him touch her daughter. Not tonight. Not ever again. Silence stretched between them. Grayson grew impatient and walked away, his footsteps fading down the hall. Hannah waited several long seconds before locking the bathroom door. Her body ached from the cold water assault. Her limbs felt heavy, numb, but her mind finally began to clear. The fog lifted just enough for one piercing truth to break through. She wasn't safe here anymore. Neither was her child. She wrapped a towel around Arya and held her tightly, letting the shower steam fill the room. Arya's breathing eased slightly, enough to keep panic at bay but not enough to erase the fear. Hannah stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her wet hair clung to her face, her eyes were red and swollen. She looked hollow. She looked exhausted. But beneath all that, something new flickered, something she hadn't seen in years. Resolve. Not strength. Not yet. But the beginning of it. Her gaze drifted to the small crack in the ceiling where a hidden smart home microphone was installed. She had forgotten about it. Grayson insisted on them for voice commands, but now she wondered how much those devices had heard tonight. How much they had been hearing all along. Another contraction like pain pulsed through her stomach, forcing her to clutch the counter for balance. She whispered a fragile prayer, one she wasn't sure she still believed in. Please, someone help us. What she didn't know was that help had already been set in motion. Outside the bathroom, beyond the walls of that house, a person carrying the truth was trying to decide the safest way to deliver it. And that truth was now powerful enough to crack open the entire life Grayson Wolfe built on lies. Hannah stayed locked in the bathroom for nearly an hour, rocking Arya as the steam softened the rattling in her daughter's chest. The worst of the wheezing eased, but Arya's breaths were still shallow, fragile, irregular. Every rise and fall of that little chest felt like a warning. Hannah stroked her daughter's hair, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. It's going to be okay. Mommy's here. I'll protect you. But with each word, she felt the ache inside her grow heavier. She had no phone. No support. No way to call 911. No family nearby. Every avenue of escape had been slowly cut away by Grayson's control, so quietly that she didn't notice until the night she desperately needed a lifeline. She rested her forehead against Arya's, grief hitting her in waves. How had her life shrunk into this? A beautiful house, a wealthy husband, a well-known last name, and yet she had never felt poorer or more alone. Then 3 soft taps on the window. Hannah's head jerked up. Tap, tap, tap. She froze, clutching Arya tighter. The bathroom window was frosted with condensation, impossible to see through clearly. Her mind raced. Was it the wind? An animal? Or something far worse, Grayson checking on her? But then a shadow shifted outside, and a faint beam of light passed over the glass. A flashlight. Her breath caught. Grayson wouldn't use a flashlight. He had an app that controlled every light in the house. He also wouldn't tap. He'd pound. Hannah? A voice whispered sharply. Can you hear me? She recognized that voice. It belonged to Miguel, the quiet landscaping worker who tended the property's garden twice a week. He was always polite, always gentle. He once gave Arya a small flower from the yard and told Hannah her daughter had a sunshine smile. What are you doing here? Hannah whispered back, shocked. I saw what he did, Miguel said through the glass. I saw everything. I have the footage. Her heart dropped. Footage? Yes. The smart home camera by the terrace. I have access because he never revoked the old maintenance login. I recorded the whole thing. You're not safe, Hannah. Her knees nearly buckled with relief and terror. Please, she whispered. My daughter, she can't breathe well. I know. That's why I'm here. You need help. I can get you out tonight. Out. The word hit her like a warm light in a frozen room. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Heavy, purposeful Grayson's. Hide. Hannah hissed through the window. Miguel ducked out of sight just as the bathroom handle rattled violently. Hannah, Grayson called, voice low and laced with irritation. Unlock the door. Now. She backed away, clutching Arya's trembling body. We need rest, she managed. Please, just let us rest. Silence. Then the unmistakable sound of Grayson's patience snapping. "Hannah, if I have to open this door myself, I promise you won't like what happens next." Her pulse pounded. She glanced at the window. Miguel was gone, but his words lingered. "You're not safe. I have the footage. I can get you out." Her mind raced. She had almost nothing left, no money of her own, no transportation she could access, no phone, but she finally had something more important. A witness, evidence, hope. A weak hope, but hope nonetheless. More footsteps, Sloane's this time, heels clicking delicately. "Grayson, calm down," Sloane murmured. "She's frightened. And frightened people make mistakes that benefit us." Their whispers burned through the door. Hannah felt something shift inside her, not a collapse, but a rise. A slow, trembling rise. She looked down at Arya, whose breathing had steadied enough for sleep to pull at her tiny eyelids. Hannah kissed her forehead, then looked back toward the window. Miguel might return. He might risk everything again. And if he did, then maybe the nightmare she'd been living wasn't unbreakable after all. Because for the first time in years, someone was willing to stand between her and Grayson Wolfe, and that spark of courage was about to ignite something unstoppable. Hannah barely slept that night. Every sound in the hallway made her flinch. Every shift of wind against the window made her fear Miguel had been caught. Grayson eventually left the upstairs wing, likely satisfied that intimidation alone had regained control. Sloane walked with him, whispering strategies like a general preparing for war. The house grew quiet, too quiet, but Hannah didn't dare move. Arya dozed in her arms, exhausted from the asthma spell. Hannah kissed her daughter's forehead, telling herself over and over, "Just make it until morning." But morning didn't bring safety. It brought surprise. When the sun finally rose, Hannah moved carefully into the nursery, easing Arya onto her bed. She brushed her hair back and whispered, "I'll get you out, I promise." She didn't know how, but the vow settled deep in her bones. She slipped into the hallway and nearly screamed when she saw a figure standing at the bottom of the stairs. A tall man in a dark gray coat, hands folded, expression solemn but focused. Elias Ward. Her heart stumbled. She hadn't seen him in nearly 8 years, not since the days when she worked at a small photography studio and he used to come in to frame legal certificates and office portraits. He had always been kind, reserved, impossibly steady. They talked sometimes, not about anything important, but enough that she remembered he had a way of listening that made you feel heard. And now he was here. "Elias?" she whispered. His eyes softened with grief. "Hannah." "What? Why? How did you get in? If Grayson sees—" "He won't," Elias interrupted. "Your housekeeper let me in before she left for the morning. She said she's worried about you." Those words nearly broke her. Someone in this house cared, someone noticed. But Elias wasn't finished. "I came because I received an anonymous email last night," he said quietly, with a video attached. Her blood went cold. "Video?" Elias nodded, jaw tightening. "A recording of what happened on the terrace." The room spun. She grabbed the railing to steady herself. "Who sent it?" "I don't know," Elias said. "The message was encrypted, but the moment I saw the footage, I drove here." Tears gathered in her eyes. She wasn't alone. Someone believed her. Someone outside the house finally knew. Elias stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Hannah, what he did is criminal. And the cameras in this home, this isn't a house, it's surveillance. You are being documented without consent." She swallowed hard. "He controls everything. I can't even call an ambulance." Elias exhaled slowly, fury flickering behind his calm exterior. "He's crossing every legal line imaginable. You and Arya need protection." Protection. The word felt foreign. "Elias, he'll destroy anyone who helps me." "Let him try," Elias said. "I don't work for him anymore." Hannah's eyebrows lifted. "Anymore?" Elias hesitated only for a moment, but the truth followed. "I was his legal advisor for 3 years." Her stomach twisted. "He hired me before the company grew. I didn't know what he would become. And I quit because I refused to cover for him again." Again. The implication hung heavy in the air. "What did he ask you to cover?" she whispered. Elias looked toward the closed office door down the hall. "Financial manipulation. Hidden accounts. Intimidation of employees. It was bad then. It's worse now." Everything inside her went still. Grayson wasn't just cruel. He was dangerous. Elias continued, voice low. I'm prepared to help you. I have contacts, judges, advocates, shelters, private security, but I need your consent. Nothing can move forward unless you say yes. A tear slipped down Hannah's cheek. No one had asked her consent in years. Before she could answer, the floorboard upstairs creaked. Grayson. Elias's expression hardened instantly. He stepped back into the shadows near the staircase. Hannah, he whispered, listen very carefully. I'm not leaving. Not until you and Arya are safe. I promise you that. Her breath trembled as footsteps grew louder. And for the first time since marrying Grayson Wolfe, Hannah felt the presence of a real protector standing with her. One Grayson had no idea was already inside his house. Hannah's pulse hammered so loudly she feared Grayson would hear it through the walls. His footsteps crept closer, measured, controlled, the way he walked when he was already angry but pretending not to be. Elias pressed himself against the shadowed corner near the staircase, his expression calm but tense, like a man preparing for a courtroom battle he couldn't afford to lose. Hannah, Grayson called from the landing above. Why are you up so early? She swallowed hard and forced her voice not to shake. I was checking on Arya. A pause. Then the sound of him descending the stairs, each step heavy, deliberate. She stepped slightly sideways, hoping to block his view of where Elias hid. Grayson reached the base of the stairs, wearing his tailored charcoal robe, looking every bit the powerful CEO the world admired. His gaze swept the hallway, sharp and suspicious. You look nervous, he said. Is something wrong? Everything. My whole life, my daughter, my unborn child. But Hannah forced a steady breath. I'm tired, that's all. Before he could question further, Sloane appeared behind him, dressed in a silk nightgown, as if she lived there. She leaned lazily against the railing, eyes flicking over Hannah with calculated disdain. Morning, Sloane said softly. Rough night? Hannah swallowed the bitterness on her tongue. Arya is still recovering. Sloane clicked her tongue. Children absorb their mother's emotions. When you're unstable, she becomes unstable. Hannah's hands curled into fists. She had an asthma attack. Sloane shrugged. Caused by stress. Specifically your stress. A low anger simmered in Hannah's chest, but she held her ground. If she reacted wrong, Grayson would sense it. She needed time. She needed Elias. Grayson cut in. We'll talk later. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. He brushed past her, but not without pausing just slightly to murmur. Don't cause any more problems today. I mean it. Then he walked away, Sloane trailing like a shadow. The moment they disappeared around the corner, Elias exhaled and stepped from the darkness. That man is seconds away from losing everything, he whispered. Hannah shook her head. Not unless someone stops him. That's why I'm here, Elias said, and there's more you need to know. He guided her toward the back hallway, away from cameras. Once they were safely tucked into a storage alcove, Elias pulled a slim flash drive from his coat. I didn't come empty-handed, he said. For months before I quit, I suspected Grayson was hiding funds. Offshore accounts, crypto laundering, false tax reports. I couldn't prove it then, but last night, after seeing that video, I decided to try again. Hannah stared at him, breath caught. What do you mean? I hacked into the old cloud server he never shut down, Elias said. Found dozens of encrypted financial files tied to shell corporations, and someone named SP approving transactions. Her stomach twisted. Sloane Pierce? Almost certainly. The realization crashed into her like cold water. Sloane wasn't just manipulating Grayson emotionally. She was tied to him financially. Illegally. This is enough to bury them, Elias said quietly, not just in court, publicly. Hannah pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. Elias, you could be arrested for accessing those files. I know, he answered, without hesitation. But you and Arya are worth the risk, and Grayson Wolfe has hurt far too many people. Tears burned behind her eyes, not from pain, but from the shock of having someone fight for her again. What do we do now? She whispered. Elias's voice softened. Now, we build a plan, a real one, but I need every detail. You've been too afraid to speak. Hannah hesitated only a moment before nodding. Then I'll tell you everything. And as she began, her voice trembling but clear, neither of them realized that Grayson's smart home system had just flagged a suspicious offline zone, leading him straight toward the secrets they were trying to reveal. Hannah had never spoken her suffering out loud before. Not fully, not honestly. Whenever she tried, even to herself, she minimized it, softened the edges, convinced herself she was exaggerating. That was how Grayson trained her, by making her doubt her own memory, her own instincts, her own worth. But now, standing in the narrow alcove with Elias, something shifted. Her voice, though shaky, finally opened. "It didn't start this way," she whispered. "He wasn't a monster when we met. He was quiet, lost. I thought I could help him, but once the money came, everything changed." Elias listened without interrupting. His steady gaze didn't judge, didn't pity it, validated. Hannah continued. "He started small, criticizing little things. What I wore, how I spoke. At first, I thought it was stress, but then he began controlling everything. My schedule, my friends, my access to money. He said it was to keep our lives organized." I believed him. Her fingers trembled. Elias gently motioned for her to keep going. "Then Sloane arrived," Hannah said, bitterness lining her words. "She pushed him to elevate his image, which really meant tearing mine apart. Suddenly, I wasn't good enough to stand beside him. She said I was too soft, too emotional, too average." "You're none of those things," Elias said. But Hannah pressed on, determined. She convinced him that being a family man made him look weak, that investors wanted a bold, driven CEO, not someone tied to a wife and a sick child. And he listened. Every day, he listened a little more. Her breath hitched. Then he started monitoring me. The cameras, the phone restrictions, even my bank card stopped working unless he approved a purchase. He said I couldn't be trusted with finances because I didn't understand how the wealthy lived. Elias's jaw tightened. That's financial abuse. And isolation. Classic control tactics. Hannah blinked hard, fresh tears welling. "It got worse when I became pregnant again." He said I was slowing him down. He didn't want this baby. He accused me of trying to trap him, even though he was the one who wanted a second child months before. A deep ache pulled through her chest. And then last night, her words crumbled for a moment. "He forced the cold water on me while I was holding Arya. She couldn't breathe, Elias. She almost collapsed. He didn't care. Neither did Sloane." Elias inhaled sharply, grief and fury merging in his expression. "Hannah," he said softly, "please hear me. This is not your fault. None of it. He built a cage around you and made you believe it was your own doing." Her breath trembled as she whispered, "I stayed because I thought I could protect Arya better if I was close. But last night, I realized I'm putting her in danger." "That realization," Elias said gently, "is strength, not failure." He reached into his coat and pulled out a thin envelope. "What's that?" she asked. "Everything I gathered," Elias replied. "Financial violations, internal memos, whistleblower reports that never reached the authorities because someone on the inside blocked them. I kept copies. I knew one day he'd go too far." Hannah stared at the envelope. It felt like holding fire. "If we combine these with Miguel's footage," Elias continued, "we have enough to take him down legally and publicly." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He'll retaliate." "He will," Elias admitted, "but not before we set protections in place for you and your kids." Hannah pressed a hand against her stomach as the baby kicked a reminder of why she had to keep going. "Elias, I'm scared." "I know," he said softly, "but courage doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you move anyway, and you won't be moving alone." She swallowed hard. For the first time in years, she felt something other than fear. Then footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Coming toward them. Elias's eyes sharpened. He grabbed Hannah's wrist gently. "Someone's coming," he whispered. Hannah's heart seized as the smart home lights flickered, a sign the system was scanning for movement. And as Grayson Wolf's silhouette appeared at the end of the hallway, Hannah realized the moment of quiet confession had ended. The war for her freedom had just begun. Grayson's figure loomed at the end of the hallway, a dark outline framed by the morning light. Hannah froze. Elias instinctively shifted, placing himself half a step in front of her, though he remained tucked inside the alcove's shadows. If Grayson walked just a few feet closer, he would see them both. "Hannah?" Grayson called, his tone clipped. "Why are you hiding back there?" Her heartbeat thundered. She forced herself to inhale slowly, deeply, the way she used to, before photo shoots. "I'm not hiding," she said, stepping out just enough to block Grayson's view into the alcove. I was organizing the storage shelves. Grayson studied her with narrowed eyes, suspicious, calculating. You look jumpy. I didn't sleep much. Arya was sick all night. A beat of silence, then an indifferent shrug. She'll be fine. Hannah's stomach twisted. She almost wasn't, but she swallowed the words. Speaking them would only escalate him. His gaze swept the hall one more time. I'm heading to the office. Sloane will stay here in case you need guidance. Guidance. A word so condescending she almost flinched. Beside him, Sloane adjusted her robe, eyes flicking over Hannah as if inspecting a damaged item she planned to replace. We'll chat later, Sloane said sweetly. You and I have things to discuss. Hannah bit down on the fear rising in her chest. Sure. And then they left Grayson striding toward the garage, Sloane gliding behind him like a silvery shadow. The moment the front door closed, Hannah exhaled shakily. Elias stepped out from the alcove. That was close, he murmured. Too close, she whispered. Elias scanned the hallway. We don't have much time. Grayson is suspicious. And Sloane staying here makes everything riskier. We need to move fast. Move where? Hannah asked. I can't just run. I have no money, no phone, no transportation. He controls everything. Elias's expression softened. You're right. Running blindly isn't safe. You need a plan. A real, structured plan. One that protects you legally and physically. Her breath wavered, but she nodded. First, Elias said, lowering his voice, we secure all evidence. Miguel's video, the smart home audio logs, and the financial files I extracted. Those are our weapons. Weapons? Hannah whispered. Yes, Elias replied. Not for revenge, though he deserves every consequence coming. But to shield you. If Grayson tries to retaliate legally, we counter with evidence. If he tries to smear your name, we expose his crimes. For the first time, Hannah felt the possibility of winning. Second, Elias continued, we remove you and Arya from this home before he realizes you're preparing to fight back. Her chest tightened. He'll hunt us. Not if we stay ahead of him, Elias said. I know a shelter in Brentwood, secure, confidential, designed for high-risk domestic situations, not the kind the public knows about. Judges, attorneys, and victims' advocates coordinate it. A tear escaped her without warning. I didn't know places like that existed. That's because they protect the people who need them most. He gently placed a hand on her forearm, steady, respectful. You're not alone anymore, Hannah. She wiped her cheeks. What's the third step? Elias's expression hardened with purpose. Once you're safe, I file for an emergency protective order, freeze the marital assets he's been hiding, and alert federal investigators about the fraudulent accounts. It will trigger an audit, and when they dig, they'll uncover everything. Her breath caught. He'll lose everything. He built everything on lies, Elias replied. This isn't destruction, it's justice. Justice. A word she hadn't dared hope for. But, he added, I need you to be honest with me. Are you ready to leave him? Not tomorrow. Not next week, today. Hannah's mind flashed with images, the hose, the cold water, Arya gasping for air, Grayson's indifferent eyes, Sloane's smirk, the years of quiet suffering. Then she thought of her children. Their future, their safety? Yes, she whispered. I'm ready. Elias nodded once, resolutely. Then we begin now. But before Hannah could speak again, a notification chimed from the smart home panel on the wall. Internal motion alert. South hallway. Elias froze. Hannah's breath stopped. Someone was already inside. And as the alert repeated itself, Hannah realized the window for escape was shrinking by the second, and the enemy wasn't Grayson this time. It was someone far more dangerous to confront alone. The motion alert repeated itself, the panel glowing like an accusation in the dim hallway. Hannah's blood ran cold. Elias stepped closer to the device, scanning the notification. South hallway active movement detected. He lowered his voice. That wing should be empty. Grayson and Sloane left through the front. Hannah's pulse sped up. Then who? A soft click echoed from the far end of the corridor. Slow footsteps followed. Not heavy like Grayson's, not confident like Sloane's. These steps were measured, stalking, as though whoever moved was testing the silence, searching for something hidden. Or someone. Elias shifted his stance, preparing for anything. "Stay behind me," he whispered. But Hannah's body stiffened with dread when a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. Sloane Pierce, still inside the house, still wearing that silken nightgown, still smiling like a woman who had found exactly what she was looking for. "Sloane," Hannah breathed, the name catching like thorns in her throat. "You said you were leaving with Grayson." "Well," Sloane replied with a slow, sugary sigh, "I lied." Her gaze slid to Elias, sharp and unblinking. "And look who we have here, the loyal little attorney who finally grew a conscience." Elias's jaw clenched, but his voice stayed calm. "You have no legal authority to be in this part of the house, Sloane." "Oh, please," she said lightly. "Legal authority?" "Grayson practically gave me the run of the place. He trusts me far more than he ever trusted her." She nodded toward Hannah as though she were pointing at an old stain. Hannah felt the sting, but she stood taller. "Why are you here?" Sloane stepped closer. "Because you're planning something. I can feel it. Grayson may not be smart enough to sense the shift, but I am. You're hiding, whispering, plotting." Elias subtly angled his body to block Sloane's view of the alcove. "Leave now. You don't want to escalate this." "Oh, Elias," Sloane laughed softly, pityingly. "You were always so moral, so predictable, but you're forgetting something important." She raised a single manicured finger. "I know your weaknesses." His eyes narrowed. "What weaknesses?" "You're still carrying guilt for what happened years ago. The case you lost, the woman who blamed you, the scandal that nearly ruined your reputation." Her smile sharpened. "I was there. I remember. I know how to use that." Hannah looked between them, confused. Elias's face tightened not with anger, but with a shadow of something older, something painful. Sloane continued, circling them like a serpent. "Do you think you can protect her? Do you honestly think you can win against the Wolf Empire? Grayson owns judges, prosecutors. He has the press wrapped around his finger. And me?" She tapped her chest smugly. "I know how to spin any story. Even this one." "That's where you're wrong," Elias murmured. Sloane's brows lifted. "Is it? Because I saw the panic in her eyes last night. She's weak. You chose the wrong side." Her tone made something snap inside Hannah. Weak. Always weak. Yet here she was, standing, breathing, protecting her daughter, fighting through fear thick as ice, and Sloane still saw only fragility. Hannah stepped forward before Elias could stop her. "No," she said, her voice strangely steady. "The wrong side is the one hurting children. The wrong side is the one destroying a family. The wrong side is yours." For a moment, Sloane blinked, startled. But then her smile returned, colder now. "You really think you have power? Sweetheart, you can't even leave this house without Grayson's permission." Elias cleared his throat. "She won't need his permission soon." Sloane's expression sharpened. "What did you do?" Silence. Elias didn't answer. He didn't need to. Sloane's attention snapped to Hannah's trembling hands, then to Elias's coat, specifically the small bulge where the envelope of evidence was hidden. Her eyes widened, and then she lunged. Elias reacted instantly, grabbing her wrist before she could rip the envelope free. Sloane hissed, twisting like she'd trained for this exact moment. Her other hand shot toward Hannah, fingers curled like claws. Hannah stumbled back, hitting the wall. "You're not ruining what I built," Sloane screamed, dropping her facade completely. Elias shoved her away, his voice thundering. "Sloane, enough." But she didn't back down. She looked at Hannah with pure venom and whispered, "You think last night was bad? You have no idea what he's capable of, and I will make sure you never escape him." Then she spun and fled down the hallway. Elias cursed under his breath. She's going to warn him. Hannah's knees buckled. "What do we do?" Elias grabbed her hand. "We move. Now, before she destroys every chance you have left." And with Sloane running straight toward Grayson, the clock on Hannah's freedom officially began ticking down. Elias didn't waste a second. The moment Sloane disappeared down the hall, he pulled Hannah toward the back staircase, a narrow, rarely used set of steps leading to the garage. Hannah's heart pounded so hard she could barely hear anything else. Every instinct screamed danger. Arya was upstairs. The baby inside her twisted uneasily. Her body felt like it was moving through cold air again, though she wasn't outside. "We need to get to Arya before Sloane reaches Grayson," Hannah whispered. "We will," Elias said, But listen carefully, we may not get another chance like this. They moved swiftly, but every creak of the stairs felt like a betrayal. At the top, Hannah rushed toward Arya's room, but stopped abruptly. Her daughter wasn't alone. A woman sat on the edge of Arya's bed, a stranger with weary eyes and a hospital bracelet still around her wrist. She looked up when Hannah entered, her expression a mixture of terror and determination. Her hands shook, but her gaze was sharp, familiar in a way Hannah couldn't place. "Who are you?" Hannah demanded, stepping protectively in front of Arya. "My name is Lily Harper," the woman breathed, "and I used to work for your husband." Elias stiffened. "In what capacity?" Lily swallowed, voice cracking. "I was his executive assistant, before Sloane." Hannah's skin prickled. She hadn't known anyone came before Sloane. Grayson always claimed Sloane was the only one who understood him. Lily looked down at Arya, her face softening. "I'm sorry for coming in uninvited, but you need to hear this." Elias glanced at the doorway. "We don't have much time. Say what you came to say." Lily took a trembling breath. 3 years ago, Grayson accused me of stealing from the company. I didn't. He fabricated evidence. Had my access logs altered. He said if I fought back, he'd leak photos of me, private ones, he stole from my work laptop. Hannah felt sick. He threatened you? Lily nodded, tears falling. I lost my job, my reputation. My family didn't believe me. I'm still fighting the charges. And 2 nights ago, Sloane found me. She told me you might be trapped like I was. Lily paused, shaking. She said Grayson was close to making his next move. Hannah's stomach dropped. Next move? Meaning what? She said he was planning to have you declared unstable. To take Arya, to force you out before the new baby comes. She said you were in the way. The room spun. That wasn't just cruelty. That was premeditated destruction. "Why are you helping us?" Elias asked gently. Lily wiped her cheeks. "Because I heard what happened last night. Sloane bragged about it to someone on the phone." She laughed, said you were cracking right on schedule. Hannah wrapped her arms around herself, trembling. Lily continued, voice shaking. "I couldn't live with myself if another woman suffered because I stayed silent, and I have something." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small black device, a portable drive. Emails, voice memos, documents he didn't know I copied before he fired me. Elias's eyes widened. This could prove a pattern of abuse. "And corporate fraud," Lily whispered. "He used my name for transactions he couldn't justify. I saved everything." Hannah felt a strange heat rising inside her, not fear, not despair, but a spark of something long buried, power. "Lily," she said softly. "Thank you. Truly." But then a crashing sound echoed through the house. A door slammed. Sloane's voice pierced the air, shouting Grayson's name. Elias stiffened. "We're out of time. We need to leave now." Hannah grabbed Arya into her arms, her resolve turning solid as stone. And as Lily joined them, gripping the drive that held Grayson's darkest secrets, Hannah realized she wasn't just escaping anymore. She was gathering an army of the people he'd broken. And this time, they were fighting back. The house seemed to inhale before it exhaled danger. Sloane's shouts echoed from the far end of the home, sharp and frantic, as she called Grayson again and again. Hannah felt the vibrations of each cry in her spine. There was no time left. Not to breathe. Not to hesitate. Not even to fear. Elias closed the nursery door carefully, nodding for Hannah, Lily, and the still sleepy Arya to follow him down the narrow servant hallway. Every step felt like moving across a minefield. Hannah clutched Arya tightly, whispering soft comfort into her daughter's hair, even as her own nerves burned. "We need the master office," Elias said quietly. "There may be more files he doesn't know were synced. If there's anything stored locally, we take it." Hannah's stomach clenched. "That room is locked, always." "Locked for you," Elias corrected, "not for me." They turned the corner into the long corridor leading to Grayson's private office. Cold, sterile, lined with framed magazine covers featuring him. Forbes tech visionary, AI titan, the Wolf formula. His face stared back at them from every direction, smiling, confident, untouchable. But the man in those pictures was about to lose everything. They reached the door. It was sleek steel with a digital lock panel. Hannah felt her body tense. "He watches this room constantly." "Not right now," Elias murmured. Sloane pulled all the attention toward the south hallway. He'll assume you're hiding, not searching. He typed quickly. A series of codes, long, complex, flashed across the panel. You still know his access credentials? Hannah whispered. I built half of them, Elias replied. Grayson trusts technology more than people. That was his mistake. With a soft beep, the lock clicked open. Inside, the room glowed with cold blue light. The walls were lined with screens displaying stock tickers, server logs, encrypted chats, internal reports. A MacBook Pro sat centered on the massive glass desk next to a Mont Blanc pen and a half-finished espresso. Papers were scattered, something rare for Grayson. A man who hated disorder. It meant he'd been working on something urgent or dangerous. Elias moved first. Lily, plug your drive into the USB port. Hannah, check the lower drawers. Anything marked confidential goes with us. Lily rushed to the laptop. Hannah knelt by the drawer, pulling it open. Her breath halted. Inside were printed documents, legal drafts, medical records, and a thick folder labeled Psychological Evaluation. H. Whitmore, proposed. Her blood ran cold. She flipped through it. Fabricated therapist notes. Claims of emotional instability. Statements she never made. Diagnoses no doctor had ever given her. Grayson had been building a case to institutionalize her. To take Arya. To gain full parental control. Hannah pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. He was going to erase me. Elias looked over her shoulder, fury rising in his voice. This is enough to put him behind bars. Coercion. Fraud. Medical falsification. But Lily's voice cut in, breathless. I found something. Something huge. They hurried to her side. On the laptop screen was a folder Grayson had tried to encrypt recently, but not fast enough. Its title read, Project Silence Internal Clearance Only. Elias opened it. Inside were audio recordings. Dozens of them. Grayson's voice, Sloane's voice, conversations about manipulating investors, shifting funds illegally, framing employees including Lily, and worst of all, explicit discussions about neutralizing potential liabilities. Liabilities. Women. Hannah's shaking grew violent. Elias, he talked about me like a business threat. He doesn't love anything he can't control, Elias said, but this is enough to bury him. Suddenly, footsteps thundered down the hall. Fast, direct, coming straight toward them. Sloane's voice pierced through the door. He's in his office. I know it. She's hiding something, Grayson. Break it down. Elias yanked the flash drive from the laptop. We're done. We have what we came for. But how do we get out? Hannah gasped. He grabbed her hand. We don't run. What? We vanish. The garage exit. Underground drive. Miguel is waiting. The door rattled under a violent blow. Arya woke with a cry. Lily flinched. Sloane screamed, You're finished, Hannah. You hear me? Finished. But Hannah looked at the hard drive in Elias's hand. At Lily clutching the evidence she once feared to reveal. At her daughter, her reason. And something inside her broke free. No, she whispered. This time, they're finished. And as the office door shuddered under Grayson's fists, Hannah stepped into the first moment of power she'd felt in years, armed with the truth capable of burning his entire empire to ash. The office door shook again, harder this time, each impact sending vibrations through the marble floor. Hannah held Arya tightly while Lily backed away from the entrance, fear widening her eyes. Elias scanned the room, searching for the fastest escape route, calculating every risk with razor focus. Hannah, Elias said, his voice low but urgent, look at me. She lifted her head. We have the evidence. All of it. This is the moment you decide who you are now, not who he made you. Something in her steadied, like a flame catching oxygen. The door cracked at the hinges. Sloane's voice shrieked from the hallway. Grayson, push harder. They're in there. Hannah inhaled sharply. Her fear didn't disappear, it transformed. Became something sharper, clearer, a resolve forged from months of suffering and years of silence. We need to move, Elias said. Now. He guided them toward the back of the office, to a nearly invisible door panel disguised as part of the built-in shelving. What is that? Lily whispered. A maintenance passage, Elias answered. Contractors used it during construction. Grayson doesn't know it still opens. He pressed 2 fingers to a small indentation. A soft click responded, and the panel slid open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into dim light. "Go," he instructed Hannah first. She stepped inside, clutching Arya. Lily followed, trembling, pressing the drive of evidence against her chest like a lifeline. Elias entered last, pulling the panel shut just as another violent crash struck the office door. Darkness swallowed them. The narrow staircase smelled of cold concrete and dust, nothing like the pristine air of the main house. The descent was steep, forcing Hannah to stabilize herself with the wall while keeping Arya close. Every step made her legs ache, her body reminding her she was still pregnant, still fragile, but her spirit felt anything but fragile now. At the bottom, the maintenance tunnel opened into a long corridor running beneath the property. Lily whispered, "Where does it lead?" "To the garage," Elias replied. "Miguel said he'd wait near the lower gate. We just need to reach him." But something in Hannah shifted something deeper than escape. She stopped walking. "Hannah?" Elias asked. She turned to face him, her eyes steady, controlled. "If we leave right now, we save ourselves. But Grayson keeps everything he stole, everything he destroyed." Elias exhaled, understanding her fear and her fury. "We're not just leaving, we're taking everything he built with us, financially, legally, publicly." Hannah felt her heartbeat slow into a strong, steady rhythm. "That's not what I mean," she whispered. Elias took a step closer. "Tell me." She swallowed. "I don't want to run anymore." Lily gasped softly. Elias studied her carefully. "Running isn't weakness, it's strategy." "I know," Hannah said, "but hiding isn't living." He took my voice, my freedom, my confidence. He made me feel small. He told me I was unstable, dramatic, unworthy. Her eyes shone with a fire Elias had never seen in her before. "But I'm not any of those things. And I want him to see that before everything collapses." A pause. Then Lily whispered, "You want him to see you win." "No," Hannah said. "I want him to watch me walk away with everything he tried to steal." The tunnel lights flickered. Above them, they heard muffled shouting. Grayson had discovered the empty office. Elias nodded slowly. "You're stronger than you realize." "No," she corrected him gently. "I'm just finally awake." Arya stirred against her shoulder, her small voice cracking. "Mommy, are we safe?" Hannah's heart clenched. She kissed her daughter's forehead. "We will be, baby. I promise." Elias listened for footsteps from above, then motioned for them to continue. As they reached the end of the tunnel, a faint glow appeared, the exit door leading to the lower garage. The heavy metal door had a single narrow window, through which Hannah could see Miguel's silhouette pacing anxiously beside his truck. But just as Elias reached for the handle, a voice echoed behind them. Not from the tunnel. From the intercom speaker built into the wall. Grayson's voice, calm, deadly. "You think you can run from me?" Hannah's breath seized. "You think you can take my child, my money, my name?" His voice dropped to a growl. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." Elias's expression hardened. "Keep going. Don't stop." But the intercom crackled again, this time with Sloane's voice. "Hannah, sweetheart, do you really think you're the first woman who tried to escape him?" Hannah froze. Arya whimpered. Lily clutched the drive tighter. Elias whispered sharply, "Do not listen to them." But Sloane continued, voice dripping with poison. "You won't get far, and the people helping you, they'll fall right alongside you." Hannah's jaw clenched. Her fear didn't return. Her resolve sharpened. Because for the first time, she wasn't the woman Grayson controlled. She was the woman who would destroy the empire he built on her suffering. The next 48 hours passed like a blur Hannah could barely hold on to. After escaping through the maintenance tunnel, Elias moved her, Arya, and Lily to a secure safe house in Brentwood, quiet, hidden, watched by private security who didn't blink twice when a terrified pregnant woman arrived in the middle of the night. It was the first time in years Hannah slept without fear of footsteps outside her door. But safety wasn't the end of the story. It was the preparation for war. While Arya rested, Hannah worked with Elias and a team of advocates who specialized in cases like hers, women trapped by wealthy, powerful abusers who thought money could rewrite reality. They analyzed files, built timelines, organized testimony. Even Lily added details from her time under Grayson's control. Every piece of evidence made the case stronger. Yet Hannah knew none of it mattered unless they took control of the narrative. Grayson had power, influence, media reach. She needed to confront him where his world mattered most publicly. And fate handed her that chance. 3 days after she fled, Grayson announced a massive charity gala at the Beverly Hills Regency, an event meant to soften his image after whispers leaked about domestic troubles. Sloan arranged interviews, influencers, press releases. They painted Hannah as unstable, overwhelmed, even ungrateful. The kind of woman who didn't appreciate her perfect life. Hannah saw the posts from a burner phone Elias gave her. Her hands shook. "They're rewriting the truth," she whispered. "That's what abusers do," Elias said, closing the laptop. "But they won't succeed this time." He placed a formal invitation on the table. Gold lettering. Elegant script. The Wolf Foundation. Winter Gala. Beverly Hills Regency Hotel. Formal attire required. Hannah's breath hitched. "You want me to go there?" "No," Elias corrected gently. "I want you to arrive. Not hidden, not trembling, not apologizing." He met her eyes. "But standing. In your strength, in your truth." The idea terrified her, but the idea of staying silent terrified her more. On the night of the gala, Hannah stepped out of the safe house wearing a simple but elegant navy gown that Elias's assistant found something soft, flowing, made for comfort but still unmistakably beautiful. Her hair was pulled back loosely. Her eyes, though tired, held a sharp new light. "Are you ready?" Elias asked. She nodded. "Yes." They arrived at the Beverly Hills Regency under the soft glow of street lamps. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Mercedes, BMWs, Rolls-Royces, each carrying guests eager to celebrate Grayson's supposed generosity. Flashing lights burst across the carpet as photographers snapped photos of attendees dressed in expensive fabrics and plastic smiles. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers glimmered like frozen stars. The decor was dripping in gold and white. A jazz quartet played softly near the stage. Servers floated around with champagne glasses. Then Hannah spotted them. Grayson and Sloan, standing together like king and queen of a world Hannah once struggled to survive. Grayson wore a midnight suit, polished to perfection. Sloan shimmered in silver sequins, her smile wide and triumphant. Hannah's breath tightened, but she didn't back away. Instead, she stepped further into the room. Gasps rippled through the guests. Whispers followed like a rising wave. "Is that his wife? I thought she was in treatment. Why is she here? She looks fragile." "No, she looks determined." Sloan's smile faltered when she saw her. Grayson's face went hard, fury flashing beneath his polished exterior. He approached swiftly, jaw clenched. "You shouldn't be here." Hannah lifted her chin. "It's a public event, isn't it?" "This isn't about you," Grayson growled. "Leave before you embarrass yourself." She didn't move. "I'm not the one who should be worried about embarrassment." Behind her, Elias stepped forward, placing a protective hand at her back. Grayson's eyes narrowed. "You brought him here?" "He's my lawyer," Hannah answered, "and my witness." Sloan glided closer, her expression tightening like stretched wire. "If you think you can ruin this night with your dramatics." But she stopped when she noticed Lily emerging from the crowd behind Hannah. And Miguel. And 2 advocates holding sealed envelopes. Something shifted in the air. A tremor. A warning. Hannah felt the moment settle over the room like the quiet before a storm. "Grayson," she said, voice steady, "everything you've done is about to be exposed." He scoffed. "You have nothing." Elias stepped forward. "We have everything." But Hannah wasn't looking at Elias. She was looking at Grayson. At the man who tried to break her. And as the first screen behind the stage flickered to life, projecting a still image from the cold water footage, Hannah knew the night wasn't just a confrontation, it was the beginning of his downfall. Gasps tore through the ballroom as the massive LED screen flickered from its elegant, winter-themed backdrop into a grainy, high-contrast security feed. The image froze on the frame of Hannah standing on the terrace, 7 months pregnant, holding Arya, both drenched in icy water, both trembling in the bitter December cold. The room fell silent. Utterly silent. Grayson spun toward the screen, rage flashing in his eyes. "Turn that off, now." But the tech crew didn't move. Because the video wasn't coming from them. Elias had arranged the upload directly to the hotel's internal system, locked, timed, and unstoppable. A soft voice echoed through the speakers, a voice everyone recognized. Grayson Wolf. "Rinse the attitude out." The footage played. The icy blast. Hannah collapsing. Arya screaming, Sloane's smirk visible in the background. Gasps cracked across the crowd like breaking glass. Someone covered their mouth. Someone else whispered, "Dear God." Grayson lunged toward the stage, but 2 hotel security guards blocked him. "This is illegal," he shouted. "She's manipulating the footage. This is fake." But it wasn't fake, and more was coming. The screen changed again, this time to a folder of audio recordings. Sloane's voice filled the ballroom. "Grayson, she's cracking right on schedule. Once she breaks, you can claim she's unstable. It'll clear the path." Hannah watched the crowd recoil, investors, donors, reporters, all horrified. Some already pulling out phones to record, to tweet, to send messages that would ignite the downfall of Grayson Wolf in real time. Sloane's voice played again. "You just need her out of the picture. Permanently." Gasps. A sharp cry from somewhere near the bar. Someone whispered, "They plan to institutionalize her." Grayson's voice followed, "She's weak. She'll fold. We'll take the kids and push her out." Sloane's icy laugh chimed next. The ballroom erupted. "What kind of man? Is that his wife?" "She's pregnant. Call the police." "He's done. Finished." Sloane stumbled backward, face pale, lips trembling as the full weight of her exposure hit her. "Stop it! Stop it!" she screamed. "Turn it off! You can't do this!" But the screen did not obey her. It flickered again, this time showing financial spreadsheets, offshore accounts, falsified ledgers, unauthorized transfers, each bearing initials G, W, and SP. Elias lifted a microphone, his voice calm and cutting. "This is the evidence of fraud, coercion, and domestic endangerment committed by Grayson Wolf and facilitated by Sloane Pierce. These documents have already been delivered to state and federal authorities." Grayson roared, "You'll regret this." Elias continued, unfazed, "And to the press outlets standing in this room tonight." Reporters raised cameras instantly. Flashes fired like lightning. Microphones extended toward Hannah, toward Elias, toward Lily, who stepped forward with trembling bravery. "That man destroyed my life 3 years ago," Lily said, voice cracking yet strong. "He framed me when I refused to help him hide illegal funds. Tonight, he finally loses the power he used to silence us." Applause thundered, raw, emotional, furious applause. Grayson lunged again, but this time, he wasn't met by hotel staff. He was met by police officers entering through the side doors, warrant in hand. "Grayson Wolf," an officer announced, "you are under arrest for fraud, coercive control, and endangerment of a minor." A scream tore from Grayson's throat, feral, unhinged. "This is your doing," he yelled at Hannah as officers restrained him. "You ungrateful nobody, you think you won?" Hannah didn't flinch. She stepped forward, barely trembling now. "I don't think," she said softly. "I know." Sloane attempted to flee, but 2 more officers caught her by the arm. No, you don't understand," she sputtered. "This wasn't my idea, Grayson told me." Her lies dissolved as quickly as her composure. Hannah watched as Sloane was handcuffed, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her silver gown glittering under the harsh lights of humiliation. And then it happened. The crowd parted. People stepped aside, creating a path. For Hannah, she walked forward, not like a victim, like a woman reclaiming every piece of herself. Guests nodded at her. Some murmured, "Stay strong." Others whispered, "We believe you." It felt surreal, overwhelming, healing in a way she wasn't prepared for. Elias stepped beside her, voice low. "It's over." Hannah exhaled. Not in relief, in release. But the night wasn't finished. Because as the ballroom held its breath, Hannah took the microphone and prepared to speak publicly for the first time since Grayson tried to silence her. The courthouse in downtown Los Angeles felt colder than any winter night Hannah had ever endured. Not because of temperature, because of gravity. Justice weighed heavy in those halls, the kind of heavy that pressed into your bones. Reporters crowded the steps, cameras flashing as she walked in beside Elias, Arya clinging gently to her hand. Her second pregnancy was nearly full term now, her belly rounded beneath a simple navy dress. She wasn't hiding it anymore. She wasn't hiding anything anymore. Today was the day Grayson Wolf answered to the world. Inside the courtroom, every seat was filled. Lily sat in the front row, hands clenched tightly around a tissue. Miguel sat beside her, eyes locked on Hannah with the quiet loyalty of someone who had risked everything for the truth. The advocates who had helped Hannah escape waited behind them. Strangers who'd followed the case online sat shoulder to shoulder with reporters from major outlets, all here to watch a titan fall. Grayson was escorted in last. He looked nothing like the powerful man who once ruled over a marble empire. His hair was unkempt, his jaw tight, his wrists cuffed. His eyes, once cold and calculating, were swollen with fury. Sloane followed in a separate chain, trembling, mascara smudged, her confidence shattered. When Grayson's gaze found Hannah, hatred twisted across his face. "This isn't over," he mouthed. But it was. Elias placed a reassuring hand on Hannah's back. "Remember," he whispered, "truth doesn't tremble." Court was called to order, and the judge, a stern woman with silver hair and steady eyes, began hearing the charges. Financial fraud, coercive control, child endangerment, unlawful surveillance, medical falsification, and conspiracy to commit custodial interference. Each word felt like a brick being removed from the walls that had once imprisoned Hannah. The prosecution opened with Miguel's footage. The courtroom held its breath as the cold water video played Hannah pregnant, freezing, shielding Arya with her own body. Gasps broke across the room. Even the judge's face tightened. Then came the audio recordings. Sloane's voice, Grayson's voice. Every whispered plan to erase Hannah, every illegal transfer, every threat. Sloane burst into tears halfway through, burying her face in her cuffed hands. Grayson sat stiff, jaw clenched so tightly it looked painful. But the true breaking point came when Lily took the stand. Her voice shook, but she didn't falter. "He destroyed my life because I wouldn't help him steal from his own company. I was too afraid to speak, but Hannah, she gave me the courage to tell the truth. He did this, all of it." Then it was Hannah's turn. The courtroom fell silent as she stepped to the stand. She told them everything, quietly, clearly, not dramatized, not exaggerated. Just truth laid bare. The isolation, the gaslighting, the threats, the way Grayson turned their home into a prison, the way he weaponized her pregnancy and her daughter's illness. When she described the cold water incident, her voice cracked, but she did not stop. "Fear stole years of my life," she said softly. "But I won't let it steal another minute." Elias watched her with a mixture of pride and sorrow. Lily cried. Even a few strangers wiped away tears. The defense tried to paint her as emotional, unstable, manipulative, but it was useless. Evidence crushed every lie they attempted. Every witness who testified strengthened Hannah's case. And finally, after hours of testimony, the judge delivered the verdict. "Grayson Wolfe, you are found guilty on all counts." Hannah closed her eyes as the words washed over her like warm sunlight. Sentencing will include prison time, financial restitution, and permanent loss of parental rights pending additional review. Sloane received her sentence next several years for fraud involvement and conspiracy. The courtroom buzzed with whispers of justice. Hannah breathed for what felt like the first time in years. As the guards led Grayson away, he turned back to her, fury twisting his face. "You'll regret this." Elias stepped forward slightly, blocking his view. "No," he said firmly, "she won't." Grayson was escorted out. The door shut behind him. And just like that, the world shifted. Hannah didn't collapse. She didn't cry. She simply exhaled, long and steady, as though finally releasing every ounce of pain she had held. Elias touched her arm gently. "It's over, Hannah." She turned to him, eyes soft. "No," she whispered, "it's just beginning." Because justice wasn't the end of her story, it was the beginning of the life she and her children were finally free to live. Spring arrived quietly in Los Angeles, the kind of gentle warmth that made even concrete feel soft. Hannah felt it the morning she moved into her new apartment, a sunlit corner unit in a peaceful Brentwood building. Nothing extravagant, nothing cold or intimidating. Just hers alone, hers with Arya and the baby soon to come. For the first time in years, silence didn't frighten her. Silence meant peace now. Arya ran through the living room, a ribbon pinned in her curls, giggling as she held a small stuffed fox Miguel had gifted her. "Mommy, look, my room has a window." Hannah smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, and sunlight for your plants." She watched her daughter twirl in that sunbeam and wished she could freeze the moment forever. A reminder that healing wasn't loud. Sometimes it was quiet laughter in a safe room. Lily arrived next, carrying a box of children's books. "I hope these help," she said shyly. Arya deserves gentle stories now. She does, Hannah said, hugging her. And so do you. How's the legal process? Better, Lily answered with a small smile. With your testimony and the evidence, the charges against me are being dropped. I have a life again. Thank you, Hannah. Hannah squeezed her hands. We saved each other. As Lily left, sunlight painted the room gold. A knock echoed at the door. Hannah's heart lifted, not with fear now, but with something warm and steady. She opened it to find Elias standing there, holding a small houseplant in a ceramic pot. A housewarming gift, he said. Thrives in indirect light, and it's hard to kill. She laughed softly. Perfect for someone who's still learning how to breathe. Elias stepped inside, looking around the apartment with quiet approval. His gaze landed on Arya playing on the floor. She looks lighter. She is, Hannah said. We both are. The smell of coffee drifted from a small machine on the counter, Starbucks roast, one of the few small luxuries she still enjoyed. She poured 2 cups, then joined Elias at the small kitchen table. You know, he said gently, the settlement is finalized. The restitution funds are accessible now. You won't have to worry about rent or health care. And Grayson? She asked. Elias's expression hardened slightly. Serving his sentence. There's no appeal coming. He's done, Hannah. A soft exhale left her body. Not triumphant, not vindictive, just relieved. I thought I'd feel joy, she whispered, but mostly, I feel free. That's joy, Elias murmured. They sat in silence for a moment, sipping coffee. The baby kicked gently, an echo of life moving forward. Have you thought about the future? Elias asked softly. Pieces of it, Hannah said. I want to go back to photography. Maybe start small. Maybe even sell prints one day. I want Arya to grow up knowing her mother didn't stay broken, and I want this baby to arrive in a home filled with peace. Elias nodded, something warm flickering in his eyes. You deserve all of that. Hannah noticed the way he looked at her, steady, respectful, hopeful. And for the first time, hope didn't scare her. Elias, she said quietly, you've given me more than legal help. You gave me courage when I had none. You saw me when I felt invisible. He shook his head gently. You found your own strength. I only stood beside you. She touched his hand, letting her fingers rest lightly over his. I'm still finding my way, she whispered. But, if you're patient, I'd like you to be part of that future. Whatever shape it takes. His expression softened into something unmistakably tender. I'm not going anywhere, Hannah. Before either could say more, Arya ran to the table, waving a drawing. Look, it's us, Mommy, me, baby, and Mr. Elias. Hannah laughed, eyes damp with gentle emotion. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Arya nodded proudly. We're a team now. A team. Maybe even a family someday. The thought didn't frighten Hannah anymore. She looked around the apartment, the sunlight, the plant, the laughter, and felt something she once believed she had lost forever. Safety, hope, a future waiting to be built. And as Elias stood beside her, helping her hang Arya's drawing on the fridge, she whispered a truth she finally believed. We made it out. No fear. No shadows. No chains. Just a new beginning. And in that beginning, Hannah stepped fully into the life she fought for, the life she deserved, leaving darkness behind and walking toward everything she once thought impossible. So the story has come to an end. And here we are. My wonderful friends, you're still with me, aren't you? If you truly stayed until this moment, it means something in this journey touched your heart in a way that words alone can't explain. Hannah's story reminds us that quiet suffering is still suffering, and that courage often begins the moment we choose to stop apologizing for our own pain. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When you finally choose thoughts of strength, dignity, and self-worth, your whole life begins to change. Healing doesn't happen overnight, but it happens the moment we stop surrendering our power to people who never deserved it. And like Hannah, each of us has the right to walk away from what breaks us and step toward what rebuilds us. If this story touched you even a little, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel so more people can find strength, hope, and healing in these stories. You being here matters. And I'm grateful you stayed with me until the very last line.